G'day my friends and welcome to Marty's Garden here on YouTube. Another live show directly from my home. Today we're going to be talking about saving money and learning how to grow organic seedlings at home. So this is pretty exciting stuff, guys. And look, the reason why I'm running this live show today is because we got more rain here where I am. Yep, she's going to be raining all week. And it's no fun down on site where I have my compost worms and my business down there. It's too many mosquitoes. It's all wet and muddy. I don't have a roof over my head. So we're here today to talk about raising organic seedlings. And it's just awesome to have you guys here and to turn up on these sporadic live shows that I know they don't have a set date as of yet, but I swear they are coming. And we are working on getting them better and better. I am working on improving them all the time. So I want to thank you guys for turning up. And g'day LP. Thanks for coming, mate. And good evening to you. Wherever you are around the world at this time, greetings to the show. And bless you all. Thanks again for coming. We're going to actually really get into some deep diving stuff here about raising seedlings and saving money and doing it organically if you can, which is my preferred method that I use myself. And to talk about, this theme at the moment of, gasoline prices are just out of control. As we know, the food on the shelving is just going up and you're just going, oh man, and you're just seeing your wallet, you go, money disappear. And so it's getting harder to hold on to. So one thing, like in business, what we do and in life, what we do when we're budgeting is we find ways to spend less and make more. So this one really is sort of spending less. But when you're growing, you're making more, right? So there's really two really good elements to this. And I've got my list here. I woke up this morning and wrote out my trusty little list that I'm going to follow here today for my script. And we'll have like a Q&A sort of more towards the end. And we're really going to deep dive into this. And look, as always, people that are involved and turn up for the show, get involved, guys. Yeah, drop your comments in. And, we'll work when I ask. We'll do some things where we'll ask some questions and things like that, and then you guys can answer them. And then as we get more towards the end, we'll really dive into the Q&A. But don't feel afraid to say something and speak out and be involved. That's what this live show is all about. So we've got my friend here from Simplify Gardening. Welcome there, buddy. Great to see you yet again. And it's always awesome to have you on board. Now, Tony's actually going to be coming on a live show in the near future. So, keep an eye out for that. We've been sort of in discussion about it. We just haven't set an exact date yet. Both pretty busy at the moment. Here we go. Purple Luna. Hello, Marty. Hello, Purple Luna. Welcome to the show. Thanks for turning up. Donald's Aussie Homestead. My favourite Aussie Homestead channel in Australia. And long time. Good to see you. Good to see you too there, my friend. Wonderful stuff. Now, let's get straight into this, right? Because people are watching the reruns and they're coming back through and things like, oh, Marty, give some content, give us some tips, right? So, well, firstly, why raise seedlings? Because it's a huge money saver. When you go and buy seedlings, you save some time. So when you're first getting started, it's a good idea to maybe, if you can afford it, buy a couple of seedlings and then start raising some of your own. And then work your sort of way up through it, or just start right from seed from the very beginning. But I always recommend that you go out and buy some seedlings first. Get some, don't go for the super cheap ones in the special line. They're usually like the dead old ones that have got problems and things. It's just gonna dishearten you. Go for the mid-range stuff that's good quality, growing well, or seems to be growing well to you, and start getting into it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why it's a good idea to grow plants and then eventually start harvesting your own seed as well. Because when you do this, this is an amazing thing about a plant, right? Is you can grow. So an example, now tomato plant is a major version of this. If you grow a tomato plant, a healthy tomato plant, one tomato can give you like 50 seeds. You know, like it's just mental. And how many tomatoes you can pick off them, especially cherry tomatoes, you end up with tens of thousands of seeds. And so you end up like with this bank. You're building a small bank of wealth, which you can actually then plant on. And as you're planting and growing and planting and growing, the plants get more used to the zone where you're living and perform better and better each year. So it's a really good idea to sort of, as you're progressing, get better at it. Look at saving some seed. I know it's impossible to save them all unless you've got a lot of time and you're really sort of like into it. But if you can start sort of getting the process and get better at it, it's super rewarding. It really is. And raising your own seedlings, like especially organically, they're just much healthier and they're more resistant to pests and disease. And when you start getting used to raising them this way, you just get better results because as you do it each year and each season, you get better and better at it. Your plants grow more healthy, more strong, more vibrant. You end up with more food. And, you know, after a little bit of time, you just actually, like when you're excelling at this, and it doesn't take that long, you just see the results and the tastes and the quality of the food, the essential oils in the food. You notice that the skin of your tomatoes is nice and, you know, it's not thin, not thick and sort of like trying to cut through it and going, it's a bit chewy. You know, it's just melting in your mouth and you're going, oh, why didn't I do this earlier? So the thing is now, what's really going to push more people into gardening at the moment is they're going to be going, how do I save this money? I need to find a way to put food on my plate cheaply. And, you know, we've been, food in really, when you look back 20 years ago, was really cheap, yeah, compared to what it is now. I remember just walking home with like 2 big bags, shopping bags of food for about $7, you know, when I was in my late teens, early 20s. So a fair while ago now, like a beer was 80 cents in those days. So, you know, like money's, obviously there's inflation and all that. I mean, we put all that into account. But the thing is, here in Australia and a lot of places around the globe, our wages aren't going up, but inflation is about to. So growing your own food at home and raising your own seedlings is the cheapest way to do it, guys. Yeah, it's a really good method. And I need to have a quick drink of water. I want to thank everyone for coming today. I know we're not sort of, usually when I do like a worm farming video, we get sort of a lot more people come on, but we are actually discussing about the organic method of using worm farming and composting to raise your seedlings. That is the cheapest method. It almost becomes, once you're set up, if you can grow your own seed and you're making your own compost and you've got your own compost worms and worm farm, we're talking cents on the dollar to grow food other than your time. Now that's unheard of, right? And then you can actually, if you're doing hard on the dough, you can actually then sell those seedlings and sell some of the plants and sell some of the crops that are coming out of it. And I do that from time to time to restaurants, cafes, even to some locals sometimes when I've got extra surplus. And sometimes I just give it away for free to people that, you know, can't afford it or just want to try something a little bit different. So we've got something from LP. It says, doing well, starting more seeds indoors today. So yeah, depending on your climate and things like that, sometimes it's a good way to raise seedlings indoors. You've got a more even temperature. It's not fluctuating from cold to hot to warm too quick. And you put them on maybe on your windowsill in the daytime, sort of bring them away at night if the window gets cold. And then you'll raise them much faster. And in cooler climates, you can use things like mini greenhouses, little tiny hot houses that you can make. You can get like a whole lot of bricks and put a little plastic over the top and create, you know, so many easy ways to do it. You can look on Pinterest and YouTube how to make these quick little greenhouses to raise your seedlings, because a seedling only needs warmth and water to come up, right? It just needs warmth and water. Now I just want to show you a little video that I've come across here, and look at this. Like, this is what it's all about, guys. Now this lady is harvesting what we call it, I'm pretty sure it's what they call a cherry bite tomato here in Australia. They're a small little cherry tomato. They've got They're a little bit more sour than the sweet ones, but they're still really delicious and super healthy. And they've got to be one of the easiest plants to grow that I know of. So let's keep playing that. I want to play that again. I just really like that. And, this plant is super productive. If you grow some basil and a bit of parsley with it, straight away you've got a pasta sauce. You've got tomatoes to put on your sandwiches. You can make tomato pastes. You can just do so many things with tomato, basil, and parsley. But we'll be talking about these Mediterranean herbs a little bit more as we go along in the show. So I'll put something here. LP's come across with something. If I may add, don't feel like you have to start all your plants indoors. If you want to go that route, start small, start with some tomatoes or flowers. Definitely, mate. And we are going to talk about this more along the line. We're building up a bit of momentum. We're talking about the why factor of why we should do it, what's the benefits of it, and what are you going to get out of it for doing it? You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be something in it for you. And first, we're talking about you're going to save money, you're going to have healthier plants, and you're going to have a healthier lifestyle, and it's going to taste way, way better. And you'll notice, that in time, once you sort of get a little bit better at this, just growing some herbs at home can save you a lot of money. Now, I know there's at the shop now, a little tiny pot of basil, $3. It's nothing. I'd use 3 of those in one of my pasta dishes, and that would be $9 worth of basil. Now, I can't see the value in it, right? Whoa, petrol just hit $3.47 a litre here. Now, that's gnarly. Well, I paid $2.15 for mine the other day, $2.20, $2.15 twice. Killing me. And so, wow, that is just, that's a bit scary. Okay, so we got some more people. Last frost is around May 15, so starting warm season crops like pepper and tomatoes inside will now give me plants when it's time. Yeah, so that's probably one of the biggest reasons to start things inside in mini greenhouses. Depending on your climate, they need a bit of warmth and you can start them a bit earlier. So that is a really good option to do so. So we'll move on to the next image here. Now you look at this, if you've watched the last live show, you would have seen this image before. That's me with a big pile of worm castings coming out of a worm farm. And I'm just you can see the worm farm on the right side there, the lid off, one of those old round ones. Nothing too special. Took me about 6 to 8 weeks to get that amount, and that just made me so many seedlings that season. You can see, I've still got my flannelette shirt on there because it's the end of winter. I live in the subtropics and getting ready for planting out the seedlings. Now, the things about worm castings is when you're putting it with the seedlings, the worm castings are pH neutral and they don't burn the plants in any way. They're slow release to the plant, and they actually protect the roots around the plant from nematodes and things that want to eat the roots, such as the eel nematode. And they're slow because they're slow release, and they've got all the microbiology around them. They help the plants photosynthesize better and share that carbon, sugar, nutrients, and create that cycle, especially when you're going in the ground. When you're using them in the pots, they're still really good, but you don't have that that cycle. They're just taking out of the nutrients, but the nutrients is very clean and a really great nutrient to use. So I'll just check down on my list. Yep, so I'm talking about more pest-resistant disease. So if you're using compost and worm casts, that's going to make a huge difference as well. And you can go, and there's lots of different options. You can go and buy seed raising mixes and all that at the start, and then slowly work into, if you're a total beginner, learning how to compost, learning how to worm farm, and slowly do it. Or you can just go in, and I've got a link in the comments box there, and also in the description. You can do the course Starting a Worm Farmer Beginner's Guide and Starting Organic Seedlings A Beginner's Guide. And the two combined together show you how to grow organic seedlings using the method from worm farming, from the liquid teas right through to getting the castings and mixing it and raising the seedlings, hardening them off, getting them out into the sun and getting them ready to grow for cents on the dollar. So that's there in the description if you're interested in that. or you can ask me a question about that as we go through into the live show. So I'm just going to pull across some more things here, some more comments by the people that are coming in to watch the show. My last frost, and we said that we've done that one, 4.14 per gallon. Man, so this is what I mean. Like, we really need to look at ways to start saving our dollar. We can't rely on the government to just go, yeah, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that. We need to take control of our own food securities. And I believe that, like now, more so than ever, looking right back into history, like without freaking people out, but we need to sort of have that. I'm not a prepper, right? So don't put me in the prepping box. But we need to sort of look at the back in history of when the times were really bad, even going right back to the Great Depression. They weren't ready. They weren't set up for it. And when times hit really hard, people really struggled. So you need food, shelter, and clothing, right? So we get hold of some of our own food and take control. And so one of the best ways to do it, to get started right as a complete beginner, is just start growing your own herbs, right, and grow in season. So start off small and expand out slowly. Use some start in pots, and then learn about gardening into the ground, and just start. If you start too much too quick, you get too overwhelmed, you have too many losses, and you end up getting way less into your kitchen than what you did if you start off small and expand out. So look at sort of write down a list of things that you eat, and then look at the possibilities of how you can grow them. I'd recommend things like all the Mediterranean herbs, such as oregano, marjoram, all the different types of basils, parsleys. There's two different types. I like the flat leaf parsley myself more than the curly, but sort of each to their own, right? And then learn about intermixing your composting with your worm farming, because into the future the governments aren't going to take them away from you anyway. You're going to have to start dealing with it on site where you live, or you're going to have to pay someone to take it away from you. So I recommend you turn that waste into something valuable, as I've always said. So we got something here. I'm just going to read out what LP's got. We've had loads of recalls on greens in the States, so growing my own has become a matter of safety. And yes, agreed, Marty. Fresh herbs are expensive here too, more than buying a pack of seeds. Oh, totally. And then like a basil, I've got basil growing out the back, like heaps of plants, because I was selling it to the restaurants. And there's millions, there has to be a million seeds there. I don't have time to go through them all, but I've grabbed some, and I just grabbed some of the seed the other day it's called a giant red mustard, which grows really good here in the cooler season. Beautiful plant in omelettes and things like that. It's got this mustardy flavour. All those brassica families are quite easy to grow. They grow good as a microgreen, and many of them as a baby leaf, and then also into the mature plant. So, and I think I got maybe 1,000 seeds or something off one plant from the mustard, and that just was growing. I let it grow wild in my yard, and then occasionally I'll grab some. So the wild comes up every year in the garden beds, and then I'll grow it. I'll grab some seed, and I'll grow it in some pots for microgreens, and then I'll grow it on into a mature plant to eat. And so that cycle just goes on and on my favourite ones. Purple Luna. Willow water is traditional method to extracting the root hormone indobutyric acid from willow trees, which are believed to be present in sufficient quantities too. Wow, that's amazing. Oops, the rest of it to be present in sufficient to stimulate root growth. That's some really good tips there. Steep the twigs in about half a gallon of boiling water. Leave them for about 24 to 48 hours. Remove the willow pieces. Use a colander to sieve to pour the willow water through into another. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. The rest is in the chat box there. It's interesting. And basil, it's one of my favourites. So I'm growing the lemon, the Thai, and just the normal Genovese, which is the basil that you see sort of everywhere. And it just, when you're just growing it, it's just, you just can harvest a lot of it. So look at plants that you can grow and harvest a lot of, and that don't mind being picked a lot of, and actually grow better. Like things like basil grow much better. And, the simple ones, such as, instead of like you're first starting off growing big tomatoes, just look at the cherries. They're more prolific, easier to grow, less pest and disease problem. You can harvest them faster, so there's less chance of a bird or a slug or some type of grub getting it before, and it ends up on your kitchen plate much faster. So one of the methods that I like to do is grow the cherry tomatoes, the basil, the Mediterranean herbs, some microgreens. I've got microgreens videos on the channel, so check those out. And then some baby leaf things. I've got baby leaf rocket growing at the moment and harvesting that. So I'm just getting the baby leaf rocket, and I'm getting a little bit of the some other microgreens, the serratus microgreen, mixing it with a bit of sprouts, a bit of olive oil, salt and pepper on the side of the plate. Boom, boom, boom. I've harvested that. And when I've got the cherry tomatoes, cut cherry tomatoes as well. And I've harvested that in probably about a minute to 2 minutes, walking out in the garden, grabbing it, washing it. It's on the plate within even 5 minutes. So it's really fast once you get a system going and you're growing your own food. And that's 30% of my plate would be that. And so, I'd have a bit of carbs and maybe a bit of meat or something, meat dish or something on the side as well. So 30%, if you're costing, say, $7 a meal, you're saving a few dollars sort of every meal. And that quite adds up quite a bit over time. So what I'd like to do before we move into more of the content is ask you if you're growing seedlings, why you do it. I'd love to hear why you're growing seedlings, and let me know even your mixes and what you're growing. You can leave them down in the comments box down below or into the live feed at the moment, and we'll talk about that. And remember, you can learn how to grow organic seedlings. Starting Organic Seedlings, a beginner's guide, and starting a worm farm, a beginner's guide, is available in the description. It's $15 to get started. And if you want to go on and support the channel, you can stay in there and it'll be $15 a month, or just go in, do the course, and jump in and get out and get educated. But remember, when you're in there and you're leaving comments, I will get back to you as a coach to you to help you with your guy. And I don't know anywhere else that does sort of something somewhere that cheap myself, so it's a really good deal. Rosemary Ryan. Wow, never knew that about the willow. Unfortunately, the local council removed every willow in the area and put replacement trees that drop bad stuff all the time. Oh, don't you just hate that when they do that? We had a willow tree down the back where I lived, and we used to swing it across the creek. It was so cool. I remember every now and again one would snap, and that was the fun. You'd sort of you'd try and grab the good ones and make sure you didn't end up in the creek. But you're only a little person, and you're young, you're pretty light, you can go for it, right? Rocket with walnut and pear and sprinkle in partisans is yum. Splash on lemon or balsamic. So once you've got the seedlings and everything going, you're getting a bit of a roll. You're doing some composting. You're mixing the worm farm. You're saving a lot of money. You're getting that fresh food, and then you can look at growing a few fruit trees and things. And once you've got them established in the ground, you just take care of them by just putting compost on and mulching, and then you can harvest from them every year, and you don't have to keep planting and growing those things. Last time I got a phone call, I had something wrong with my show, so I'm just going to answer this phone call this time. 1 second. I will be back. Hello, Marty speaking.
Good morning from TPG. I'm looking for Marty.
Sorry?
This is from TPG. I'm looking for Marty.
Oh, yeah. Can you call me back in about 45 minutes? I'm on a live show.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm glad I took that call. That's TPG. I've got to keep my internet rolling. So I've had some problems here with my internet. But obviously it's going good. And excuse me about having to take that call. I don't have any admins or anything like that. So occasionally things like that are going to happen until we get our studio up and running and the Rose admins and things. Grow and eat. Trying to get about 80% of 50 to 60 people. That's a really good effort. I think, most people can really achieve about 30% in general, and that's doing really quite well, depending on how the size of, your family and things like that. And when there's, some crew that are doing, up to around 80%, that's pretty amazing. Rosemary Ryan, I recommend Marty's worm course. I did it now and have worm palaces in all my raised beds. My rocket is now wild and brings the bees, which is wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Rosemary. Yeah, a lot of people have benefited from it and have found that they've just pushed through having to search through all these issues and bad content and stuff online that's been sort of everyone says, do this, do that, and it's regurgitated over and over. And sometimes it's the wrong thing. So what I'm doing here is working on progressing it and improving it all the time. So we're looking at in the near future of adding some more videos into the members area, and just keep progressing and working with it so people can keep getting better results. So LP, I mixed up peat, sustainable Canadian company, awesome, perlite and vermiculite. I add worm castings later because I feed worms food scraps, so tomatoes grow out all the time. I need to know which are mine. Yeah, so when you throw it like you're composting and stuff, it doesn't get hot. Sometimes you got to be careful on what seed gets mixed up with what, right? That can be a bit tricky. That's true. I get that too because I don't grow tomatoes year round. I get them for about 70% of the year, and then the other 30% I have to buy. And so I don't keep any seeds that come out of my compost tomatoes. I actually collect my tomato seed, keep it separate, and then raise it again. And if I'm unsure, I'll buy that actual right one again because they cross-pollinate and different things as well. This year I'm watering seedlings with worm tea. Just started a week ago. Yeah, awesome. They'll love that, mate. Absolutely love that. We're looking at some content coming on the show about drenches. So drench, it's a type, another way to produce a liquid manure. Very similar to what I've been doing. As I said, I'm just improve things slowly each and every time. And so I'm going to be probably if it stops raining, I can get out there and film and put that into the members area. Yep, worms rule. They definitely do, Tony, from Simplified Gardening. Now, if you haven't checked out Tony's, mate, you got to get over there and check out his content. Got some great stuff. And I'm pretty sure you've got some seed raising ones there too, I believe, Tony. Is that correct? I'm 100% sure you did one just recently, but I watch a lot of content in here and there, so I might have got it mixed up. But let me know in the comments box or also in the chat there. Be good to know. I've got 4 16-gallon tubs of worms. They're all finished. That's a lot of castings I'll add to the garden. Yeah, so it is a lot of castings. And look, you can always sort of give some away or store a bit. Just keep sort of that 50% moisture locked in there. If it does get dry, you save some of the beneficial microbes, but you keep a little bit of moisture and it will go much further. Last year I kept a couple of seedlings in worm bin, found a tomato I really like. This year I'm saving 4 tomatoes and 4 peppers, all mysteries from last year's plant fun game. Yeah, it can be really fun at times. I do agree with that, and occasionally you can just stumble across something you just gone boom, and that's really cool. Yes, mate, I have a couple of seed raising videos. Yeah, so head over to Simplified Gardening and check them out as well. What we want to do is really just get the message about raising seedlings here, so you can start saving money and you can start getting more not so much fully self-sufficient, but you can, as Mark would say in Self-Sufficient Me, be self-sufficient in something, So we just really want to sort of pass that message out there and get you living a healthier lifestyle as well. Now, growing in season, this is where we need to sort of look at, and once you become a master gardener, you get much better. You can grow without going out of season and in season, on the edges of seasons and things like that. But it's much harder. It's much more chances of pests and disease because a plant, when it's under stress, is basically pests and disease will attack a stressed plant or a sick plant first before we'll go for a healthy plant. So what I recommend for beginners is to really just look at the seasonal plant and grow in season. And when you get better, you can start things early, grow things later, things like that, and build on that. But just stay within season and grow what you eat. Don't get too carried away and go, I want this, I want some of that, I love the flower on that. And then all of a sudden, you spend all this money on buying plants and things. So start off slowly, build up, grow in season. We're going into the season now we're in autumn here now, and I'm growing all the brassica leafy greens. I love those with my salads mixed with my microgreens. And that's the direction I'm taking at the moment. And I'll grow them right through the winter. And then in the spring, I'll start getting ready with tomatoes, my basils. Parsley I can grow through the winter here. So it loves that sort of winter, summer, autumn, winter, spring, autumn, the parsley's here. In summer I grow it more sort of in the shade. So yeah, really cool. Cool climate, tropical fruits. G'day, mate. Good to see you here. And welcome anyone that sort of come through a little bit later in the show. Normally we discuss mostly sort of worm farming live shows here, but we are talking about mixing the worm cast into the compost and then growing amazing organic seedlings, doing it super cheap. And there's a course down below in the comments, in the information box there that will send you over to that. Now, look at this photo here, guys. Look at that. Right, now, you're going to be going, oh, Marty, it's a veggie garden. I know that. Well, the reason why I didn't pull out this, because some people, they love to show you this big, massive garden and all this stuff, and everyone goes, wow, that looks unreal. What I want to produce to you and show to you is something that's achievable, right? I think they might be going off the 1 foot or the 3 foot square method sort of thing. What do they call it? A meter garden. I forget now. Remind me on that one. But you create these little boxes and then you set it off and you can grow all the different heights and stuff. And it's a small space gardening method. It works really great. You don't have to do that, but it is a really good way to grow a lot of food efficiently. Now, this is very achievable. We've just got some things. I think there's some bok choy. There might be some beets there, some different lettuces. And off in the distance behind, you can see some parsley. I think there's some garlic chives off into the right-hand corner. And that would probably be just a bit bigger than a metre square. And if you've got a really good compost, you're throwing in some worm castings, you're mulching, you're just keeping it nice and moist, you've got the right sunshine and things on there, that is very achievable. And you can be harvesting within a month to 6 weeks from a garden like this, because you can harvest the baby greens, the baby leaves, and things like lettuces and stuff where you can pull off the sides, and as the lettuce is getting pulled away, you're putting another little one in, replacing it. Just be careful not to monocrop too much where you've got one big crop of one thing, because that's when you're sort of open to pests and diseases. But a little garden like this, you can see lots of multicolours, lots of different things going on there. The pests get a bit confused. And say, for example, if you've got 20 tomato plants all in a row, you get cherry grub, comes in, gets in one of the tomatoes, and he just goes, oh, look, there's another tomato plant just there. And he jumps across and he goes, oh, lay some more babies here because there's another plant just there. And all of a sudden it expands. They want to actually expand out in a space where they can breed and feed their young up. So when there's confusion and there's not a lot of food around for them, they'll go and do their deeds somewhere else. So we're looking at the companion planting of confusing the pests and creating a mini biodiversity in our garden there. So yeah, square foot gardening. I knew there was a word for it. Thanks, mate. I appreciate that. So look into square foot gardening if you're going to go the small space route. I think it's a way to go, and then you can sort of expand out from there. I love teaching this small space gardening stuff, and it's originally where I sort of started off with micro farming and farming on the veranda and things when I was first started this channel on those really old videos, right? Watching from King George, Virginia. Well, welcome, and thank you so much for coming in and enjoying the show. Hopefully you're getting some value out of this. I'd like to hear what you use in your favourite seed raising mix. That would be really cool. Now what I want to do is show you another image here, because I've just shown you like a garden of what is achievable quite quickly that you can get up and running. And look at this. How cool is that? That is very achievable. We've got some basil, some garlic chives, and you can see some parsley there. Now, if she had a few tomatoes just there, instantly you've got this like amazing sauce already. Now I use garlic chives like no tomorrow. I use basil like tomorrow. I even use the basil in my stir fries. I've got I use the Thai basil and the Genovese basil in stir fries quite often, and I even grow the one it's called a blue basil, but it's a if you look it up online, I think it might be on my channel. It's actually, it doesn't reproduce, it's sterile, and I think it's called everlasting basil or something like, maybe if one of you guys know the name, but that's got a more of a taste bit like this, bit more closer to Thai basil. So you mix these things together and it can go a long way. Like, even the Genovese basil and some Asian stir fries is pretty good. All right, quick drink of water. So it's amazing that we can get like this world sort of audience. I always, every time I look at this, it always blows me out when people go, yeah, I'm watching from Virginia, and then like we've got Simplified Gardening watching all the way over from UK, and then other people in the States, and then Cool Climate Tropical Fruits, where he teaches exactly that. He's down in Canberra, mate, and we've got these people all around the globe coming in to watch the show and join in. So if you've got any questions on the Q&A, we will fire away, guys. We're going to go, the show will run for an hour today. If you'd like to leave a super chat, it's available at the bottom of this chat box and is always welcome and helps the channel quite a lot. And by becoming a member on here, a Worm Wrangler, which is the link down below, you're also helping support the channel in a monthly way if you can, because that helps me know how much is coming in each month and we can build it up. My goal would be to really have a studio where we can be even more interactive. Excuse me, that's a little bit of a burp there from my drinking water. Be more interactive and look into the worm farms and different things. Have a few different cameras set up. Eventually have an admin, but unfortunately it all costs money. Wish we had like a lotto win or something like that, then I'd just be doing it anyway. But LP is from Michigan, USA. So there you go, mate. Looking forward to that warmer weather coming in, I'm sure. So yeah, that would be really amazing to have that space. And then, as I said, the interactive space would be where people come in and look and do workshops and things like that. So we can sort of mix it all in together. Be really just amazing. But at the moment, it's really just sort of a bit of a dream. But it is slowly happening. Had some people call me just a minute ago asking me to run some workshops in June. But there's not a paid one. It's actually like people just come along and buy some product and maybe hand out some business cards, but we'll see. Let's go. Growing basil also provides your garden with amazing smells. It does, and it's also got, it's a really good companion plant with tomatoes. The tomatoes just seem to taste better, grow better when they're around it, and that I always promote the basil, tomato, and parsley together. So the parsley's underneath, shaded a bit, and your basil and tomato side by side. Just seems to do something. So always remember with companion planting, the secret formula is what you can cook together is what you can grow together. If it doesn't mix together when you're cooking, don't grow it together, and that seems to work quite well. And you don't have to dive your head into all these books and things like that to do that. So, companion planting is definitely the way to go when growing organically. And, like when you're raising your seedlings, as we're talking about, it's a good idea to have sort of maybe every once a month or something like that, have some new ones coming through, and then sort of write down your lists on what you're going to grow, and then sort of go into each season and looking forward and doing a bit of research. So now in certain parts of the world where it's getting warmer, we're in spring and it's warming up, look at what plants you want to grow, do a little bit of research on them and where the best positioning for them. And as I said, for a small space garden, you might want to start off with the square foot garden or some pots. That would be what I would recommend. So I'm looking forward to hearing if any of you guys have got any tips about raising seeds and seedlings, or you've got something that you would like to ask me, or if there's predominantly. We speak about worm farming here a lot. You might have a question about worm farming, so I'm happy to go into the Q&A right at this very moment. And we will go back to this shot here. This is the one I was supposed to show first, right at the beginning of the show. I sort of got these lined up, all these videos, and one of the softwares that are covering that one, so I missed it. And yeah, so you can see here, I'm pretty sure they're coriander seeds or something like that. But, you know, I couldn't get some tomatoes and the small one side by side. But you get the idea, right? So the seedlings raising up, reaching to the light, getting ready, putting their roots down in the soil, getting ready to photosynthesize and starting to provide life for you to go and eat. And then, you know, you've got your seedlings like this, beautiful stuff, raising through. You know, you're going through and you're harvesting your cherry tomatoes, going, yep, I look pretty happy. I'm going to harvest some more today, and I'm going to grow some more basil and and enjoy life. I get my worm farm going for future on the season. I'm going to learn about that. I'm going to learn about composting, start saving a lot of money. I'm going to get my garden going and start producing, picking a little bit every day, and then work on a percentage of how much you're going to put on your plate or how often you're going to do it and how much you need, how much time and how much space you require to achieve that. But remember, we're trying to save money and we're looking into the future here of going, okay, gasoline's really expensive at the moment and no one's still going to be able to do much about it for a while. It's looking though it's going to push inflation up pretty quickly, and we need to take some control. And one of the easiest ways to take control is by growing our own food and handling our own and turning our waste into something wonderful, which then will grow food like this that we can harvest at home, take into the kitchen bench, and start producing a better quality, tastier, healthy food. You would have to agree with me, right, that you just can't beat fresh food if you are growing it at home. Let me know how long you've been gardening for at home and how are you finding it. Are you having some success? You're having some struggles? Maybe I can help you before we sort of finish up. Got a good 15 minutes to go. So looking forward to hearing your responses. Plant more than one seed, then cut the weakest seedling, cut at the base instead of pull. So really good advice there, LP. So a bit of culling and then cut at the base, and the reason why we're cutting at the base is we just don't want to disturb that root zone and the microbes and everything that are setting up in there, and that little root will rot away and become a little bit of extra food and stuff for the plants. And that's even like the same when you're harvesting larger plants out of the garden. Cut it off at the bottom. Don't just rip it out of the ground and disturb all the soil. Cut it off at the bottom. What you don't need, start composting it again. So we're creating this loop, this cycle, and then harvest and eat the rest. Like, why not? So great advice there, LP. And don't feel bad if something doesn't germinate. Plant a few more seeds. Maybe it's you or maybe it's the seeds. In the later case, contact the supplier. Some more good advice there. Like we're all going to have mistakes. Mistakes is about learning. And so as we make a mistake, we do learn. And we're always going to, like, even master gardeners have problems all the time. And you just find if some plants don't grow and just don't do well at your place, just don't fight it. Just give it up and replace it with something else that does do well, and you will be able to harvest from more often. I've got a few plants here that I don't grow because of the white cabbage moth. They are thick here certain times of the year. So I just grow them as the brassicas. I grow them as microgreens and baby leaf. And I grow them outside of the season when the white cabbage moth isn't around laying all their nasty eggs turning into caterpillars. So some good advice there. Simplify gardening. Been gardening since the age of 7 and turned 47 2 days ago. I think you might have told us you had the birthday coming up, but what we're going to do now is I think we've got this one for happy birthday, so just turn that up, the sound effects there, and I don't know, it's a bit soft. Let's go again, ready? I don't know the thing, but normally we would have a crowd and say happy birthday, Tony from Simplify Gardening. We probably won't catch you in the next few days, but yeah, mate, all the best. 47 2 days. I turned 55 in October this year. Oh, wow. That is so cool. I'm a knit successful seedling. Bag you buy too dry. Don't have worms, maybe composted leaf litter. Do need to add it, maybe age sifted cow manure. If you can get hold of, look, if you got sifted cow manure, you got cow manure, I'd highly recommend that you compost it with composting worms. Turn it 10 times more powerful than it is. Cow manure is full of good bacteria and microbes because it passes through 2 guts. That's why it's so respected in places like India, because they're basically vegetarian. They know how good this animal is to produce, not only milk, but also to produce an amazing fertilizer. And when you look at the way, if sustainable farming is done properly, the cow actually is an amazing animal. And so I went a bit off topic there, but I think you sort of get what I'm talking about. Simplified gardening. You learn far more from your failures than you ever will from your successes. Well said. That is so true. Yes, the cabbage moth. I wish I had a photo here that I could show you, but they're a white sort of, I think they actually are a butterfly, I believe. They've got a little browny grey spot on the side of them. And they lay the eggs into the brassicas. And if they can't get brassicas, what they do at my place is they lay it on the nasturtiums. They like to eat the nasturtiums. There's a plant that's related to nasturtium that actually is a trap for them, and when they eat the leaf, it will kill the babies. But I'd prefer not. I don't do that so much. I've got that many around anyway. I don't know if we would knock them down. They're just thick here certain times of the year. And happy birthday again. We'll keep rolling through. Purple Luna, my worms in raised beds. Going good. Feed regularly, getting more. Oh, that's one. Yeah. Oh, 4 stomachs. Well, there you go. That's why they're so awesome. And I was thinking that before. I was going 2. Is it 2? And 4 stomachs. So they actually, there's a microbe that's in cow manure when it goes through a worm gut that you cannot get anywhere else. That's really good in the soil. And a master worm farmer from about 15 years ago, I remember teaching me that, and said you've got to, when you're worm farming, you're doing high-end stuff, always have a good cow manure going through so you can get those different microbes. And if you look at biodynamics and things like that, they're stuffing cow manure into the horn certain times of the year and then planting it into the ground and the moon cycles and building this massive microbial bloom, which is just intense. CG, sorry if you covered this, I just joined. How do you know when to plant seedlings out into the garden? No, that's okay. We're doing a Q&A now. So you need to, once they're sun, like it depends if you're growing them starting them in the shade, then you move them into the sun slowly. Then you're what they call sun hardening. I teach that in my course about starting them with the compost, the organic stuff, so with worm farming and things, and then the sun hardening going right through. So there's a link in the description for that, or in the comments box there. You can get access to that, but basically they need to be sun hardened first, depending on how you're germinating them. And then once they get a nice long root system, if they're in pots and the roots are starting to come out of the pot, before they get root bound, you put them into the ground. But just be aware, sun hardening the seedlings is probably where people fail the most. That's one of the reasons why I put it in that course, Starting Organic Seedlings, a Beginner's Guide, which you'll find in the members area. And so, no problems, CG. LP. Your best is Google and other local gardeners. Find gardeners in your area, back of seed packs. They usually give you some idea. Yeah, if you can buy your seeds locally, I'd recommend that if you can. So I mean seeds you've planted yourself. How do you know they are big enough to survive? Generally, once they sort of get through, so they've gone through sort of first leaf, second leaf, they're in that sort of third, fourth leaf coming through. Generally, they're pretty right by then. It just depends, like on your situation. I don't know your climate. I don't know what soil types you've got. I don't know sort of your rainfalls and pests and things around, birds, and like we have there's some birds up the coast that like a little brush turkey they call them. They get into your garden, mate. Look out! They'll just scratch a whole plant out in one go. Big feet, bigger than chickens. Just so I can't really give you a good answer for that. I'm sorry, mate, but. Generally, once you've got a tomato about yay high, nice big leaves on it. Hopefully, you're feeding it a bit of worm tea, so you're building good bacteria, or planting it in a bit of worm cast. You're giving it more of a higher success rate. The healthier the plant is, that's why I promote organics quite a lot, growing and starting in compost and worm cast. You've just got a higher rate of success because if the plant's healthier, less chance of pests and disease attacking the plant. So start off right from the beginning really well. Better results. Purple Luna. Been since a kid. I'm 52 in May. Used to cut articles, newspaper and magazines and stick in scrapbooks. I've sort of lost me there. Maybe it's something you guys are talking to. Cheers. Moo poo. So if you've got any more questions, fire away, guys. I'd like to answer any questions, any gardening questions that you may have right at the moment. I want to thank you all for coming in and checking out the live show. As I said, normally the live shows are mostly to do with worm farming, but it's all about the end result. I do this, I make these composts and farm compost worms and things like that so I can get an end result and grow a plant like this. I want to have it turn into food or some type of plant that will be at least taking carbon out of the air and into the ground. Could be a fruit tree, could be, could be a native plant, anything like that. It's all about that sort of end result to turn it into an amazing compost and worm cast to get that done and to grow something like that using this. Why not? It is the way to go. And a worm farm, you can produce this anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months, depending on the season, how many worms you've got in there. You're using it at 10 to 1, so it goes a very long way. And you see that at a 1 worm farm. If you measure that to 10 to 1, that would smother my whole head almost, and you wouldn't even see me there. And so that's a lot of material that you can use. And you can store it and save it, as long as you sort of store it somewhere there's a little bit of oxygen going through, holds a little bit of moisture, and it doesn't become sour. So then you can use it for a very, very long time. You can store it for years, really, if you stored it properly. I use those big 10-gallon buckets. I drill a whole lot of holes in the lid, and then around the top of the lid, I put it in there, and then occasionally I'll take off the lid and open. I'll pull a little worm out every now and again because they come to the top, and put them back into another worm farm. So, yeah, it's a great way to store them, keep them, and keep using them in your worm farms. So it's been a great show so far, guys, talking about raising seedlings and bringing it live. I wish that I could had the cameras already set up and the studio already set up and be showing you these plants, why they're coming through. That would be absolutely amazing. Hopefully one day we'll get there, guys, and really sort of move through. Thanks. I'll check out the course. I really struggle at that point. Look, it's the point where most people sort of struggle, and that's one reason. Predominantly, I keep saying I teach mostly worm farming and composting here, but it's all about this end result, and that's why I put that seed raising course in there. And I'll be putting some gardening videos in that area, in the members area, if I feel that people will benefit from it and it sort of matches up with what they're doing. Glennie's Garden. How you going, Marty? I finally made it to your live show. Finally, brother. G'day, mate. Good. Thanks for coming. Glennie's Gardening, for dropping it. Lovely to see you here. We're not far off, we're in the Q&A section now. So if someone wants to leave a question or drop some type of comment or say something in here, I will pull it up and we'll drag it across and have a bit of a yarn. So Purple Luna went to local seed savers. Awesome. 10-year-old came, loved it, and want to do it again to share produce too. I think seed saving is really an awesome thing. I really take my hats off to the people that do that. It's a lot of work, man. and they're saving a lot of this biodiversity around the place. So it's just amazing. So when we're growing organically, we want to always be thinking about feeding the soil, not the plants, creating biodiversity around us, and looking at growing within season. If we've got a little bit of biodiversity around us, we'll get less problems with pests and diseases. Birds will come in, maybe take a cherry tomato, but they'll steal 4 grubs before they'll take 4 cherry tomatoes. Just they're chasing the protein thing. So if you see like a bird come in and maybe grab 1 or 2 here and there, don't worry about it. They're doing more good than harm. Don't shoo them off. Unless you've only got 2 cherry tomatoes on your plant and you're going, I'm going to eat them tomorrow. That's a whole different story, right? You know what I mean. Okay, Jan Zeely. Hi from South Africa. I used my worm castings to start my seedlings and had mushrooms grow in my seed trays. Is that something to be stressed about? Oh, no, definitely not. It actually just shows that it's alive, and you've got the mycorrhizae in your system, which is actually the fungal network, and plants use that to actually access sugars and produce more nutrients and things, and to communicate. So don't be worried about it. You won't find it won't hurt your plants at all. And in many ways, when you add it to the garden and things like that, you're adding the beneficials into the soil, like we're creating a living soil. So yeah, cool. You might find that if the mushrooms are coming up though, maybe you're making that little space a bit more humid. Certain mushrooms will come up with the humidity. Just have a little think about that. But they're just the fruits of what's down below the mushrooms, and they're just getting ready to reproduce. And generally, it's a good thing that you've got a nice living soil. So yeah, don't be bothered about that. I get excited when I see mushrooms in my lawn and popping up around the bottom of my big underground worm farms and things. Got them in my compost down where I sell at the Free Brothers landscaping site, popping up in the compost. Then I'm just going, yeah, I'm doing something right. If I start seeing the mushrooms popping up, because I feed it the coffee grounds, and they love that stuff. And if you know, a lot of people grow mushrooms to sell in coffee grounds. So yeah, they feed off the nitrogen and the other good and the bacteria and everything that's feeding in there. All right, so we have some people watching here. We've had a smaller show today because generally we do cover more sort of in the worm farming area, but I believe that we've been pretty successful and we've got out some pretty good content. And so what we do as we get towards the end of the show is we then start sort of, people drop in the comments. We start saying goodbye to everyone. And yeah, I put on some music, give you a bit of a wave goodbye, say goodbye to your friends in here as you're meeting new people and things like that. We connect and stuff, and that's how we finish off the end of the show here. We've been running for an hour now, and I've got this theme song. Now, have a listen to this song. It's an awesome song about nature, about life, about loving life. Thumbs up if you haven't already. I would rag your comments off. Please say goodbye.
All the birds are making homes inside the evergreens. The air is clear with our loved ones close. You can pick out every star without a telescope. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time, everything we've lost comes home again, and I will grab onto your arm a little stronger than we were before. I've missed your face. Has it been that long? Looking forward to a fire and a sing-along. Let's stay the same as the children grow, and teach them all the simple things we thought we used to know. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time, everything we've lost comes home again, and I will grab onto your arm a We always held out hope. So if you grab onto my arm, let's take a walk until the sun gets warm. In time, you know.
All right. Thanks, guys, for coming to watch the show and being involved in this show. I really do appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed. If you're here watching the rerun, you've got something out of it. Remember, if you want to take it to the next level, there is a link in the description in the members area that will teach you how to do exactly that. Hopefully, I've passed on some value for you and given you some food for thought about saving some money, taking some control into your life, and getting that healthy food into your life as well. It really can make such a big difference. I want to thank everyone for, again, like I mentioned, thanks all the time. And the people that have been coming here and just supporting my live shows and watching all my videos, I really am grateful. So you guys have a wonderful day. I'm going to go and see what I can do and get done out in this rain here. Or maybe I will just take a day off. I've been working pretty hard lately. Thank you all again for coming. Have an awesome day, evening, or wherever you are. If you haven't thumbs up, give us one back there. And we'll see you at the next video, live show real soon. I'm going to be putting out videos once a week eventually. But I'll let you know about the updates when they come. And it's exciting times. Bye for now.